It's 8000 BC. You're kneeling in the dirt, and someone you trust is holding a sharpened flake of stone against your shoulder. There's no numbing cream, there's no buzzing needle, there's no bored artist asking if you want water while a playlist hums in the background. There's just you, the blade, and a small crowd watching to see if you'll flinch. And then it begins. The stone opens your skin in a long, deliberate line, and instead of pulling away, you hold still, because holding still is the entire point. This is the story of why humans started permanently marking their own bodies. Not for a music festival, not for a breakup, not because you saw something cool on your feed at 2 a.m. and thought, yeah, that, forever. We're talking about the very first time a human being looked at their own unbroken skin and decided to change it on purpose, with a wound designed never to fully heal. And here's the thing nobody tells you. This isn't a niche behavior. It isn't something a few strange cultures did in a few strange corners of the world. Permanent body marking, tattooing, scarification, branding shows up almost everywhere humans went, on nearly every continent, across tens of thousands of years, invented over and over by people who had never met and never could. That kind of independent reinvention doesn't happen by accident. When a behavior appears everywhere, it usually means it's pointing at something deep, something baked into what we are. So the obvious explanation is that it's decoration. People wanted to look good. Case closed, right? Except that answer falls apart the second you actually think about it. Decoration doesn't require pain. Decoration doesn't require permanence. You can paint your body, wear beads, drape yourself in ochre, and wash it all off tomorrow. Our ancestors did all of that too, and it was easy and reversible, and it hurt no one. But branding and scarification are the opposite of easy. They mean bleeding. They mean infection risk in a world with no antibiotics. They mean carrying a mark until the day you die. Nobody endures that just to look nice. So why did they do it? Why choose the pain, the scar, the permanence on purpose? The answer is stranger, older, and far more human than decoration ever was. To find the oldest answer, we have to talk about a man who's been dead for over 5,000 years and still has better tattoos than most people alive today. In 1991, hikers in the Alps stumbled onto a frozen body sticking out of the ice. They assumed it was some unlucky climber. It turned out to be Otzi, a man who died around 3,300 BC and got flash frozen so perfectly that we can still read the marks on his skin. And his skin has 61 tattoos. Not portraits, not tribal swirls, not somebody's name. Simple lines and crosses, grouped in clusters on his lower back, his knees, his ankles. The exact places a 50-year-old man walking the mountains would ache. That location is the whole story. When researchers mapped Otzi's tattoos, they lined up almost perfectly with his joints, worn down by arthritis, and with classic acupuncture points still used today. Which means these might be the oldest medical records on Earth, written directly into a body. Not art, treatment. Someone burned or cut charcoal into his skin where it hurt, deliberately, repeatedly, as therapy. The earliest tattoos we've ever found may have been humanity's first attempt at healing pain by adding more pain in exactly the right spot. And that's the paradox sitting at the center of this entire story. Pain isn't the price of marking the body. Pain is the point of it. In scarification traditions across Africa, the Pacific, and the Americas, the hurting isn't an unfortunate side effect people tolerated to get the design. The ordeal is the design. Enduring it is what gives the mark meaning. A scar you got easily says nothing. A scar you earned by staying silent while someone opened your skin says everything about what you can survive. Here's where I have to be honest about the evidence, though. Skin doesn't fossilize. Otzi survived only because a glacier swallowed him whole. Almost every other marked body in human history rotted away and took its story with it. So when we say tattooing is 5,300 years old, that's just the oldest one we happen to find frozen. The behavior is certainly far older. We simply have no skin left to prove it. Absence of ancient tattooed corpses is not evidence that ancient people had bare skin. It's evidence that skin doesn't wait around for archaeologists. And everything we do have points the same direction. Wherever humans lived, they were already turning their bodies into permanent records of who they were and what they'd endured. So if the pain is the point, the next question is, who is the pain for? And the answer pulls us out of medicine and into something far more powerful. A mark you carry forever isn't really a message to yourself. You already know who you are. A permanent mark is a message to everyone else, broadcast on the one billboard you can never take down. Your own body. This is where scarification and tattooing stop being personal and become social technology. Think about what a mark actually proves. In group after group across human history, you didn't get the tribe's markings for free. You got them at a specific moment, usually the terrifying, non-negotiable threshold between childhood and adulthood. In parts of West Africa and among Aboriginal, Australian, and Amazonian peoples, a young person was cut, burned, or scarred in a ceremony they could not opt out of, could not fake, and could not undo. When it was over, they walked out with a pattern on their skin that said, permanently, I belong to this people. I passed. I am one of us now. You couldn't buy that mark. You couldn't borrow it. You had to bleed for it. And here's the genius hiding inside the cruelty. A signal that's easy to fake is worthless. Anyone can claim loyalty. Anyone can say the right words around the fire and then vanish when the group actually needs them. But a scar carved into your flesh in front of witnesses is a promise you can never walk back. Scientists call this costly signaling, the idea that the most trustworthy signals are the ones that are painful and permanent to produce, precisely because a liar wouldn't pay the price. Your marked skin was a lifelong contract with your community, signed in the one ink that never washes off. Now, I can hear the skeptic. Maybe it was just fashion. Maybe these were the tattoos everybody had that season, and we're reading too much into it. Fair. But fashion is designed to change, and these marks were designed to be impossible to change. Fashion is about standing out. Tribal marking was about locking in, forever declaring which people would bury you when you died. And that instinct, the deep human need to wear your belonging on the outside, where the whole group can read it, is the same force that later put crests on shields, tattoos on soldiers, and Letterman jackets on teenagers. The skin was simply the first uniform, and the only one you could never take off. But here's the moment the story turns dark. Because the exact same power that let a mark say, I belong, could be flipped, forcibly, to say something monstrous. I am owned. And once humans figured that out, the branding iron stopped being a tool of belonging and became a tool of possession. The technology barely changed. A hot piece of metal, a burned line in the skin, a mark that lasts until death. What changed was consent. In a tribal ceremony, you offered your body to be marked and walked away belonging to something. Under slavery, your body was seized and marked, and you walked away belonging to someone. The Romans branded enslaved people and criminals, sometimes on the face, with letters that announced their status to anyone who looked. Runaway slaves were burned with an F for fugitivus, a permanent public record of an attempt to be free. Across the ancient world, from Mesopotamia to the plantations of the later Atlantic trade, human beings were marked with the same casual efficiency used on cattle, because the entire point was to reduce a person to property that could be tracked, sorted, and reclaimed. And this is the moral chasm sitting right in the middle of our story. Two people can carry a burned mark on their shoulder. One received it in front of their whole community as the proudest moment of their life, a sign they'd crossed into adulthood and earned their place. The other received it screaming, held down by strangers, as a sign they no longer owned themselves. Same tool, same burn, same permanence, almost nothing else in common. The mark on the skin was never good or evil on its own. It only ever reflected who was holding the iron and whether the person underneath had a choice. Punishment worked the same way. Branding criminals wasn't really about the pain of the burn which faded in weeks. It was about the sentence that never ended. A thief marked on the hand carried that crime into every room they ever entered for the rest of their life. There was no serving your time and starting over. The permanence was the punishment. Society had discovered it could use the body as a prison the convict could never leave because they were wearing it. And that's the unsettling truth about permanent marking. The very feature that made it sacred, that it lasts forever, is the exact feature that made it perfect for cruelty. So why did ancient humans brand their own skin? The honest answer is, for all of it, at once. Not one reason, but a tangle of them, layered over tens of thousands of years. It was medicine, ink pressed into an aching joint to chase the pain away. It was a rite of passage, the terrifying threshold you crossed to become an adult in the eyes of your people. It was a contract, a costly, unfakeable signal of loyalty carved into the one surface you could never take off. And, in its darkest form, it was a chain. The same technology turned around to say, you are owned, instead of, you belong. The mark never had a fixed meaning. It only ever meant what the moment and the hand behind it made it mean. And here's what should stop you cold. None of this went away. We didn't outgrow it. Roughly a third of American adults have at least one tattoo, and if you ask them why, you'll hear the same ancient answers dressed in modern clothes. It's for my daughter. It's the date I got sober. It marks the worst year of my life, so I never forget I survived it. That's not decoration. That's a rite of passage. That's a scar you chose. That's a permanent record of who you are and what you endured, written into skin, exactly like Ötzi's aching joints and the tribal marks of people who died 5,000 years before you were born. Because the drive underneath all of this was never really about ink or blades or hot metal. It's about a specific, stubborn human need. To make the invisible visible. To take the things that live inside you, your pain, your belonging, your grief, your survival, and drag them out onto the surface where they can finally be seen. Every other animal wears the body it was born with and leaves it exactly as it found it. We are the only creature that looks down at its own skin and thinks, this should say something. So the next time you see a scar, a tattoo, a mark someone chose to carry forever, understand that you're looking at one of the oldest human impulses there is, older than writing, older than cities, older than almost anything we call civilization. We have always turned our bodies into stories. The only thing that's changed is the tools. What would you permanently mark on your skin if you had to choose just one thing? Let me know in the comments. Until then, see ya.